What's up with it, bro?
What's going on? What's going on, man? Pleasure to be here. Pleasure.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. One of the
Likewise.
hottest in the city, man.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
But I know you're a household name at this point, but for those who don't know you, introduce yourself.
How y'all doing, man? To the world. My fault on the voice a little bit, but Nico Nel Media, goddamn me, engineer, cameraman, label owner, the voice of St. Louis, the voice of the people. You know what I mean? The albino champion in this motherfucker, Rocky Balboa. Call me what you want. For real, for real.
Straight like that, man. I like the introduction.
Yes, sir.
Before we dig too deep into these accolades, these titles you just gave yourself, not just gave yourself, but that you have, we get to know you before all that. Now, what part of St. Louis did you grow up in? Are you originally from St. Louis?
Yeah, I'm from St. Louis. My mother, I grew up in University City. Like, shout out to Nelly. But like my bird was from like the north side, So kind of between my grandma's house in the summers and shit like that. Like I go from the county to the city. She ain't had no babysitter. Summer times we always go to grandma's house on the north side. That's where we learned, the little bullshit that we did learn. But for most of the part, University City.
Yeah. Now, I hear you speak about your mother. Was your father, was he there?
Most of the time he was locked up. I was 23, 24 when he got out. I was about 7 or 8 when he got locked up. So I fucked with him and shit. He just wasn't there. Typical shit for St. Louis. Typical, story.
Do you know and could you speak on like why he was gone away for so long?
To my knowledge, it was just like probably like little petty drug charges, shit. Like, but probably bad lawyers and stuff. Like, I think he got a bad deal. Like, probably too much time for the charge and shit. You know what I mean? Something he should have probably got a few years for. They ended up kind of going a little heavier on him, I feel like, but that was all this petty drug charges and shit.
How's your relationship now?
Unfortunately, it's non-existent, but I would say that's because of me. You hear me? Like, when you grow up without the family, when you need them, when you're younger, you develop like this, I wouldn't even say resiliency, like, because I don't even know if that's a word. Like, you develop like this attitude where it's like, girl, I made it this far without you. So now I'm a grown ass man. I got a son. I don't need a daddy. You know what I'm saying? I don't need a pops. Like, I'm grown. I still say daddy because I'm from that young age when I said that, that's when he left. You hear me? So even my homies, they be like, hey, bro, call him pops or something. I'm like, you got to think he walked away. I'm 7, 8, he got locked up. That's the last thing I remember calling him. That's the last thing I said. So to this day, that's just what it is. But it's all love to him. Like, I got to learn to, reach out and check on my peoples, man, heal them old wounds, try to change the cycle, I know he ain't want that shit,
Yeah, I was just going to say, I can relate to that. I'll just say that. And a lot of us hold on to feelings, against our parents for reasons that was out of their control. They were probably, who knows what he was doing, probably trying to provide for you and
absolutely
suffering the consequences by going to jail.
Right.
He still ended up
suffering the consequence. It's a catch-20, right? Yeah, most definitely.
But you also mentioned, like, you are a father yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways do you try to, I guess, not make those same mistakes as your father did?
I mean, that's kind of why, for such a big change in the city, like, I'm stepping down at the height of my shit. Like, a lot of people won't tell you, like, at the height, I shoot videos, so at the height of my career, it's like, hey, we're going to pull away and change it up. And the reason being is for my son. Because, like, I could sit and get a babysitter and go crazy and shoot from dusk to dawn. But it's like I've learned throughout the process of having him, he's 5 now, like, it's about being a father about more than just providing, You got to actually physically be there. And I wasn't taught, nobody, how that go, but that's not an excuse. I want to do better for my generation. So, or for my seed, I should say. So I just try to be there, man, as much as I can. Like, I'm always going to provide. That's naturally just in me, as a man. But just really physically be there, teach them shit, the things that money can't buy, time.
And were you the only child? You have any brothers and sisters?
In my household, my mom I had a little brother and an older sister. So in that household, but my father had like nine kids, a lot of, then I got a lot of stepbrothers and sisters through that. So yeah, we got a lot of, siblings out there. Shout out to all my brothers and sisters,
Pop was outside.
Yeah, he was out. He was most definitely. Yeah, he was a little,
No.
Yeah.
What high school did you graduate from?
I went to University City. I didn't graduate, and I'm proud to say that, bro. It ain't like I used to look down on that when I was younger, like, man, you too articulate, you too smart to not have finished school. But at the time, it wasn't about really like the academics in school. It was just what I was going through, man. Like I was in alternative school, I was working a full-time job. Even then, I told my mom, like, look, I'm not going to college. I'm going to create my job. I'm going to work in the music industry. I'm 14, 15, 16, 17, and it's what I said my whole life. So it was one of those. Once I didn't have enough credits and I didn't make it, it wasn't no going to summer school for me. It was none of that. It was like, all right, I did my time in here. It was really a lot of shit going on in my household that just made me like, all right, let me just shake and hit the world. I wasn't really like knowing I wasn't going to further my education beyond that. I would have liked doing that for my mama, just to get that to her. My grandma, you know what I mean? And I still think for myself and my son, maybe get the GED at some point just to show my son, like, hey, I went back and did that, just to show him that I do stress education to some extent. But I know how the real world work. Like A and B students, you know what I'm saying? Like y'all, when y'all go to school, y'all do perfect, y'all gonna come work for a nigga like me. And I ain't trying to say it like that, but I create the opportunities. I'm not the guy that's gonna sit around and apply for a job. The way my mind worked, that was never gonna work for me. I had to do what I'm doing now, create my opportunity. Straight up.
And I respect that. I respect that. Not to, throw, I guess what they call shade upon people who, go through the whole course of going through school and being successful. But I just have to understand what you mean.